What's going on, everybody? This is your internet champion here, and also now your fortune teller, because I apparently can see the future. I got every one of my predictions right, for better or for worse, for last night. And today I'm here to give you my review for night 1 Saturday of WrestleMania 41. Let's do this. Alright, so to open up WrestleMania this year, we had the World Heavyweight Championship first. It was Jey Uso and Gunther. And Jey Uso just comes up, and I swear it was crazy to see 70,000 people, nearly 70,000 people yeeting at the same time. I don't know, it was quite literally 6 to 7 times larger than the average crowd we normally see. And it was surreal. It actually looked like a wave at one point. And no matter how anybody may feel about Jey Uso at the moment, I think it's undeniable that this guy is a bona fide star, and that's the takeaway I got from his entrance at WrestleMania. The crowd was definitely hot for Jey, to say the least. However, on the flip side though, like Gunther's no frills entrance felt a little very underwhelming, especially for WrestleMania. I think I've seen him do more enthusiastic entrances on like Monday Night Raws than I have at freaking WrestleMania last night. And I guess it is part of the storyline. Jay's in his head, but what the hell's going on? Like, is his character arc gonna be he's good until he questions himself? Because this is what they did with Damian Priest, isn't it? So for the first bit of the match, Jey Uso's just eating devastating chops, you know? He's reminding him who he is. Gunther's like, yo, listen, you might have gotten in my head on the mic, but in the ring, I'm still the general. So he's chopping him up throughout the match, and midway, I think he strikes him with the belt even. He gets a cheap shot in Gunther, so he's really gotten into Gunther's head. And mind you, throughout all the chops, Jey Uso starts laughing and smiling. So it's a nice little nod to WrestleMania 31 when Roman Reigns was getting thrashed around by Brock Lesnar. He was smiling throughout it all. But back to the match, he's getting chopped up, he's pulling a Roman Reigns WrestleMania 31 and smiling and chuckling. Afterwards, he straight up starts eating the chops and laughing at Gunther's face, and Gunther's just stewing. He's pacing back and forth mid-match, turning red. This guy is having a meltdown. So eventually the tides just turn. Jay has a Hulk Hogan moment where he just starts no-selling stuff, and he hits him with a spear, then 2 Uso splashes, and that's not it. He then gets him in position and gets Gunther in one of his own moves. He gets him in the rear naked choke, the sleeper hold, and taps him out in pathetic fashion within seconds. Absolutely sunned him. Like, he disciplined Gunther like a dad disciplines his kid in front of the whole family, in front of your cousins and stuff at a party because you've been acting out. You know what I mean? He had Gunther like, no, brother, come on, dude, I'm not gonna lie to you, that was the least competitive title match I've seen since probably Kofi Kingston versus Brock Lesnar, because that was so embarrassing for Gunther. Imagine running a tirade for a year as a champion and then getting beaten by your own move at WrestleMania, making you tap out. You've never done that before. And you tapped out within seconds. Like, this is clearly done on purpose so we would talk about it, and they're gonna turn this into an angle with Gunther. They better use this to revitalize the guy and make him tear everybody apart from here on. So my review for this match, my rating would be like a 2.5 out of 5, to be honest, because the match was just flat. It wasn't boring. The climax of the match was the ending itself, and I didn't dislike the ending at all. I just worry for the credibility of Gunther. But the fact that that was the best part of the match, really, like, it makes me feel lukewarm about the entire thing, because I was already fatigued from these two altogether. This is a 4 to 6 month program. So I gotta give it 50%. It wasn't the best match, but it wasn't bad either. It was just an opener. Now, coming from an opener to a stinker, let me talk to you about stinkers for a second. Next up was the New Day versus the War Raiders for the Raw Tag Team Championships, or the World Tag Team Championships, and this just sucked. Like, there's nothing else to say about it. It sucked ass. It was a waste of a match on the card. I'm so mad that they put this. I'm legitimately upset. I don't usually get upset watching wrestling, but this upset me because they put this over the WWE tag team titles. Why? They're about to have a ladder match on the SmackDown after WrestleMania. Did they do that last second because they thought, yo, our matches are gonna suck? Like, what was it? Because this did not belong on anybody's TV. People paid $10,000, some people, for their tickets to come here and watch. They're about to have a 6-team ladder match at SmackDown, and they decided to put this shit in it. And guess what? Big E he didn't return. He didn't return. He didn't show up. There was nothing to it. They won cheating technically because Xavier held Ivar's legs down while Kofi got the pin, and then they slid out the ring, got the title, and then slithered out of there. You know, they ran away. It was such a waste of time, and everybody involved deserved better. I deserve better. You guys deserve better. I want you guys to name me one person that gives a shit about the War Raiders. Like, I don't get me wrong, I respect every talent that's in there. Every single person that steps into those rings has my respect. And I don't say the individuals, the performers don't belong here, but the War Raiders do not belong on my TV. They don't belong on the show because nobody gives a shit. You know, they're wasting their time with this gimmick, and they need to let Ivar cook as a singles competitor and the other guy too, because they can both. I don't even remember the other guy's name. Alright, so my rating for this match is a 0 out of 5. In fact, it's a -1 out of 5 because it pissed me off that much. It managed to be one of the few programs ever since I've been watching this that actually got me frustrated. So I'm going to give it a legendary -1 out of 5. So we got to give them a round of applause for actually investing energy and writing a -1 out of 5 into existence. This was effort put into this, by the way. This was a 6-month build-up, by the way. One of the best heel turns of all time reduced to this. So -1 out of 5. First ever -1 out of 5 in WrestleMania history. But do you know what wasn't a -1 out of 5? That's right, Naomi versus Jade Cargill. That was not me trolling. I actually legitimately found this match fun to watch. I'm a lot more invested in this story than I ever would have thought I would be. If you asked me 6 months ago, do I give a shit about this story? I would have told you, hell no. But now, this is actually one of my most anticipated angles going into the event. And I think it did deliver. I think it was a little stiff and a little awkward. Mind you, Jade has not performed in a match in over half a year, so she's gonna be hella rusty, but I think Naomi did a great job in guiding her through the match. I gotta say, my favorite spot in that match was when Naomi had her in this cripple crossface type move, and Jade counters it by powering herself on her feet, picking Naomi up, then throwing her in the air, and in that time, she turns around, catches Naomi, and power bombs her. It was the damnedest thing I'd ever seen in a women's Wrestlemania match. That shit was epic. But my only complaint is please rehearse that beforehand, because that kind of concern for Naomi's neck and head is not the type of emotion I'd typically like to experience in my wrestling. But I gotta give points for creativity and for trying. So I would give that match overall probably a 3 out of 5. The first fun match of the night so far. Next up was LA Knight versus Fatu for the US title. And I'm really happy about this match because it was fun and it made both competitors look credible moving forward from this match. A legitimately fun match to watch through and through. A ton of fun spots. There were a few times where Fatu hits LA with a backflip, just does a backflip off the turnbuckle. They're both standing on the turnbuckle and he hits him. It's like he has the most unique moveset because he hits you with the most unconventional moves in the least predictable times and places. So great match, super fun to watch. I'm really happy with the way they booked LA Knight. He probably put up the strongest fight against Fatu out of all of his competitors thus far. So I'm hoping Fatu has a monster title run for a few months and a Bronson Reed returning from injury comes and challenges a face Fatu as a heel. That would be such a hype program for the US title, and it would finally elevate it up there with the likes of the Intercontinental Championship, because right now I think it's just a bit lacking compared to the IC title scene. So overall, I'd give this match about a 3.5 to a 4 out of 5. It was fun all the way through and both competitors look strong coming out of it, and that's exactly what both need and deserve. So I'm happy with the results and the way this worked out. Next up, it's the match I've been waiting for. You already know he's my favorite wrestler. It was El Grande Americano versus Rey Fenix, replacing an injured Rey Mysterio. So thoughts and prayers go out to him. I don't know what the details are, but he hurt himself on SmackDown. He was caught limping to the back. So shout outs and thoughts and prayers go out to Rey. Hopefully he recovers soon and gets well soon, and we'll see him again. Listen, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge and appreciate the AI dubbing that they did for El Grande's video package. They had this guy talking, and there was an AI voice talking with a Mexican accent over him, and it was the most crudely done video ever. They weren't even trying. They were just purposely being cheap with the production of his voice, and it was so funny. I genuinely was cracking up. I think this was some of the best trolling WWE has done since 2004. The days when JBL was kicking Mexicans across the border. They haven't trolled this hard since back then. I gotta be honest, there wasn't much to the match. It went on about like 10 minutes before Rey Fenix went for a dive, and El Grande Americano caught him with a headbutt in midair with the Mexican coin in hand, or rather in the mask. And then he followed it up with a star press and got the 1, 2, 3, and it was over. There was no shenanigans afterwards. Honestly, this was put together last minute because of Rey's injury. It's unfortunate we couldn't decide who the greatest of all time was, but I'm happy for El Grande. He beat the shit out of whoever this guy is, you know? He beat up Rey Fenix. He beat up Rey Fenix. You know, it was a welcome party from WWE to you, Ray. Man, a lot of guys getting the shaft this year for WrestleMania. First, it was Kevin Owens, and by extension, Randy Orton. Then it was Rey Mysterio, and by extension, Rey Fenix. He's just getting clobbered at WrestleMania, man. What did he do? What did he do other than be Penta's younger brother? Watch Penta get put over tomorrow by pinning Braun Breaker for the IC Championship, and you're just gonna have Rey Fenix joining Dragon Lee punching the air. Bro, I didn't think give Dragon Lee this match, bro. This guy's been by Rey Mysterio's side all year. Alright, I'm gonna hit you with some Steiner math. So I'd initially give this match a 2 out of 5, right? But the commentators were hilarious, especially between Michael Cole and Wade Barrett. You gotta listen to it to really appreciate it. So another 0.5 for them. And then an extra 5 points for the AI dub having a Mexican accent. So for the first time in history, we have a 7.5 rating out of 5 for a match at WrestleMania. But on a much more serious note, Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton are up next for the WWE Women's Championship. Now, we all know this match picked up a lot of traction in the last 2 weeks of the build going into it after that fiasco at the Allstate Arena. But honestly, I really thought it added to the story. And the match throughout, like bell to bell, was very stiff. You can really tell there was no chemistry and possibly even a little bit of animosity between the two. Fairly competitive match. Charlotte does like hit her with a lot of stiff shots. I'm not gonna lie, I've seen that girl wrestle for over a decade. This was some of the more stiff shots that she was throwing. I don't think I've seen her try to humiliate someone ever as much as Tiffany Stratton. Like from the start of the build to the end of the match, she was just, it seemed to me, I'm not trying to make a theory or say anything. The impression that I had got was Charlotte went into business for herself. So I don't want to put too much attention on this because I don't want to entertain Charlotte. But I also feel bad because this was Tiffany's debut WrestleMania match and she's only 25, right? So if my fears are correct and Charlotte went into business for herself, that was a real slimy thing to do. And all the more props to our champion. You know, Tiffany pulled through. Did you know she chipped a tooth in the middle of the match? Look at that spot. Charlotte Flair had her in position and just almost calculated the positioning right and leapt for it, you know? That could have just been part of the move and it went south. But if it was intentional, that was a real shiesty thing to do by Charlotte Flair. And I'm happy that Tiffany got to beat her. So overall, 3 out of 5. Was not boring, wasn't standout or great either, but I liked the finish, and I did not like the stiffness brought by Charlotte, but I'm glad that it's over, and I'm hoping that we never see these two in a feud again, because they just don't go well together. Alright, now for the main event, the moment we've all been waiting for, CM Punk versus Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins for custody over Paul Heyman in a triple threat spit swapping makeout match. So if you don't know what This Fire Burns is, that was CM Punk's original theme song before Cult of Personality. And they had a video package for his entrance where they played This Fire Burns, but a piano ballad rendition of it, which I thought was really, really nice. It was a nice callback. It got the wrestling dork in me geeking, so that was nice. And the match altogether, it was honestly as good of a night one main event as a night one main event could possibly be, you know? I wasn't very invested in the storyline, I'll be honest. I thought it was a little silly that they were all arguing over Paul Heyman. Well, Roman and Punk were, and Seth was just the middleman, you know, the fourth wheel in his own main event. But that, I think, was by design, because he ended up being the devil on Paul Heyman's shoulder and got him on his side. And that was the big reveal at the end. The highlight of the match, Paul Heyman grabs a chair and stands in between CM Punk and Roman Reigns. He looks at Roman Reigns and nods, you know, he's not like, he shakes his head and frowns, and he passes the chair to Punk. And vindictively, while getting in the ring, he encourages Punk, gets him back on his feet, encourages him to hit Roman with the chair. And as Punk gets into position, Paul Heyman comes down and hits him with the low blow. And you could tell he was in anguish, because this guy was just like completely having a meltdown after he does it, and he's telling Punk, spitting froth at him, he's like, "You made me do this, that's my tribal chief, what the hell were you thinking?" So now he takes the chair, kneels to the tribal chief and says, "I acknowledge you, my tribal chief," and gives him the chair. Now Roman Reigns is just battering CM Punk, and while he's doing this, he gets his attention diverted to Seth Rollins by Paul Heyman. He's like, "My tribal chief! My tribal chief!" The perfect Shield moment, he says to Roman. And as Roman is now in position to hit Seth, guess what happens? Drops down low, bop! Another low blow, this time to the tribal chief, Roman Reigns. And Roman is just floored. Everybody is floored. The only person who isn't shocked is Seth Rollins. Man doesn't even turn around. He just has his hand extended for the chair the same way Roman would for the mic. He knew. He had this figured out since the match was announced to be the main event. I bet you. That's probably when he knew he had to go and make that turn. But yeah, man, I still love Seth Rollins. I call him a face in my book, man. I've been saying it. He's the only one out of those three that really deserved this win for WrestleMania. I mean, CM Punk does too, but he's the most deserving. He sacrificed everything, and this tells the best story going forward. And now I'm oddly, you know, I'm half right. I did predict that Seth was the likely outcome, but I still think he's gonna interfere in the match tomorrow with Cody Rhodes and John Cena. For some reason, I still feel like he's gonna join the Illuminati. And I hope they're gonna call it the Illuminati. But yeah, that was a very entertaining main event. Incredibly well delivered ending. Though the ending was predictable, I'd still give this match a 4.5 out of 5. So for my overall rating for this WrestleMania Night 1, I would give it a solid 3 out of 5. So not bad, not great. I would give it a solid C grade. They're in a position where Night 2 has to really kick ass for this overall pay-per-view to be considered a great pay-per-view. Right now, they're an okay pay-per-view. They're just floating around. They'll be in the middle of any tier list. So if they have a 10 out of 10, I'm hopeful that this will be an A-grade WrestleMania, and they'll change their tune. A lot of us will change our tune about Night 1, depending on how Night 2 goes. So there you have it. That is my review for Night 1, Saturday of WrestleMania 41. I gotta tell you, I'm exhausted. I've been covering wrestling content for the last 48 hours. Just so much shit coming out, and there's still another 4 hours plus to go. I'm not complaining. I love doing this. It gives me a reason to actually invest as much time as I do in this product. So it's a great weekend for me. I hope everybody's enjoying this. Keep your hopes up. It's only a C grade so far. Night 2 might still deliver. I hope everybody has a great night. I hope they enjoy Night 2, and I'll see you for the review of Night 2 and for the review of the Monday night after. Until then, see you around.